Hello everyone, welcome to a Thursday edition of Tint Wizdom. For today's Tint Wizdom, I am joined with Matt Sandherr of Naples Tint Company. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Erik.
So what we're going to do, Matt, just for a few seconds, I'm just going to wait on everybody in the chat to give us confirmation that they can see us well, they can hear us well, and then we'll just jump right in.
Sure. And just, by the way, too, I just really appreciate this. I'm sure I can get more participation.
All right, well, thank you. I mean, really, thank you for taking the time. It's the day after Christmas. I don't know if you realized that when you committed to this, so thank you for doing it.
Not kind of a weird day, but you know, we were working today, so it was
cool. All right, so we're just gonna give it 1 second to make sure the audio sounds okay. So, how was your Christmas? How'd that go? Oh, mine was good. I didn't do too much, so that's a good Christmas to me. And
I think a lot of people I know just I don't know what's here. Just a lot of people I know just traveling.
So, hey, do you have any? You don't have any tabs open on your computer right now, right? Do you? Okay. No worries.
There might be a window down here. Yeah, you know what? My Chrome is open. All right. All right. How am I doing? Is that smoother?
Yeah. Let's see how this sounds. So yeah, how's it sound now? How do I sound? And then Matt, if you could do some talking, let's see how you sound.
Sure, you sound perfect to me. I don't know if anybody else has any input. I don't see any of the chat window. It's just me talking to myself. I'm in the mirror.
Well, I got confirmation. I think that your audio now sounds great. So I think we're good to go. But if anybody else can drop in a comment, make sure you can hear Matt okay. I think we're good.
I think, would it be any kind of advantage for me to go live on Facebook on my phone, or will that interfere with things?
Definitely not. We sound good. We got confirmation. So let's jump right into it.
No, I was going to say, you're going to have to read the comments then. And
oh, yeah, for sure.
I'll
read the comments. And what Matt's talking about is if anybody has any questions, you know, some of the questions I have and some will be from audience participation. So feel free to drop comments in at any point, and then I will ask those questions to Matt. So let's jump in. And Matt, let's start off by, if you could tell us a little more about yourself, who you are, how you got into the window film industry, what's your background?
Sure. I don't know if for the sake of time, to go way back. I mean, I tinted my first car when I was 16, so I always kind of dipped my toes in the window film world, even at that time when it was just part store film, and you know, I was doing some work for some friends, parents' garage. Fast forward a little bit later in life, I was in college. I was working a couple of part-time jobs, and I started the beginnings of my window tint company in the middle of college. Again, out of my parents' garage, with the resources of Tint Dude. That really that was my mentor. You know, some questions there. There really wasn't a YouTube resource or any way to figure out heat shrinking, so that was a really major challenge for me to.
Tint Dude's a website, right? A web forum, tintdude.com?
Yes. It's just a blog chat forum format. I don't know if it's still live. I've been so focused on social media that, you know, that was for me, and I don't know for anyone else, but during, you know, early 2000s, that was kind of the go-to information resource on, you know, how to take apart a certain car, you know, or things to watch out for, certain vehicle models. You know, later on in my career, I ended up picking up a lot from Tint Dude, but I progressed to the point of starting my own business in 2005, And at that time, I still had another year of college left. So I graduated college self-employed, and I've been self-employed ever since. And if you heard the 2005, that meant that the recession happened pretty early in the first couple of years of business there. I had a lot of really hard lessons that I learned in that process, and it wasn't until the last 3 to 5 years of being in business that I was really successful and really good. And at that point, I guess I'm not going to ramble too fast on this, but when 5 years ago today, I was in Pennsylvania. I had a detailing business. I had a really successful window tinting business, primarily automotive, and there was a big remote car starter installation component to that that really supplemented the winter for me. And I had dealership accounts. I had dealerships that would pay me full price, and I would get the key tag and take a picture of that, and I'd go get a purchase order from the service manager, and I'd run over to the accounting office, and I would usually get a check before I left. I mean, I had a beautiful circumstance, but December 2014, that part of Pennsylvania, we were in the middle of a 22-day stretch where they hadn't seen the sun for 5 minutes. Wow. It was low altitude. It was a memorable, dark, and depressing winter. And at that point, that was the beginning of my wife and I's conversation of, could we do it? could we just sell all this and just do this in Florida? That was the beginning of that conversation. And about a half a year later, July of 2015, that's when I left Pennsylvania in a Transit Connect van, fully loaded to the gills, with ladders on the roof rack, headed for Florida, ahead of my wife, who caught up with me a couple of weeks later. So, that's background, I guess, for you.
Okay. So entering in Florida, it's one of the most competitive markets in the country. Did you know that coming into it?
Well, that was, I guess that was the problem, is I was so successful in Pennsylvania, and I had gone through at that point about 10 years of business. So I felt like, I've learned all the lessons. I mean, I've figured this out. Like, I know, products that I want to use. I know what I want to price for things. I know how to structure this so that I'll, be profitable. I'll be successful. I've got letters of recommendations from car dealerships, like just glowing reviews to that. And Florida just punched me right in the face. Okay. As soon as I got here. I mean, I knew that there were a lot of competition down here. I knew that the pricing was a little low, but it really took me by surprise when I really spent some time initially going to stop me at any time too. Going to the tint shops down here. When I first moved here, I went from so busy. I mean, I had people driving to my house to have me tint their car before I left, to I didn't know anybody, didn't know anything. I'm down here, I'm like depressed. The phone's not ringing. Nobody cares who I am. Nobody cares about my letters of reference. Nobody cares about any of that. And I'm talking to these other tint shops that are, they've been in business 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, really established. They're using name brand products, things that, I figured they were more expensive than what I was using in Pennsylvania. I was just using global. So they had some really premium, in my opinion, product lines. And I walk in there just, initially I did it incognito and got price quotes. And then I went around as a tint business trying to make relationships, and to hear that most places were charging $100 or $140 with 20 years of reputation and putting out a quality tint job just totally slashed my sales process of saying like, oh well, you get what you pay for, so you get you pay $99, pay $140. There's no way anybody's going to use a quality product. You're not going to have a lifetime warranty, or it's going to be a horrible install, and that's not the case. I mean, they're actually just really good window film installers, maybe poor salesmen, or I'm not sure how that circumstance comes about, or because of the recession they had to really stay really low in their prices, and they didn't have the confidence, or once you do charge a certain low price, it's hard to raise it. But I guess that's just setting the stage of what I was up against.
Sure.
Coming to Pennsylvania.
And something that's so interesting, and is you said your business hasn't, at the beginning you said, correct me if I'm wrong, your business it wasn't as successful originally as the last 5 years. That's when you consider it being so successful. And then 5 years is also the point when you're saying you came to Florida and got hit with low prices and a crazy type of market. So it sounds like that was a pivoting moment in your business.
Oh, sure. I mean, to basically have to completely start over from being extremely successful. I didn't leave a bad. It was the best last 6 months of my business that I ever could have had in Pennsylvania. To start completely over and move to Florida, which is about 4.5 years ago from where I am today, and even that we moved to Punta Gorda because I thought it would be closest to the type of people I dealt with in Pennsylvania. I mean, I really went through a lot in that first couple of months coming to Florida. The first month we moved to Punta Gorda, and I started a business called Harbor Tint, and then I realized that I was in the wrong market. And my wife and I sat down and we had a conversation. We said, if we stay here for 2 years in Punta Gorda, where are we going to be? But if we just close this up and move to Naples in 2 years, where will we be? And that was the answer to that question. And we moved, initially to Punta Gorda, and then in August of 2015, we moved to Naples, and that's when I started Naples Tint. And I could talk a little bit about that process, like how I developed the first part of the business. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's super exciting because it's something everybody faces. Like, keep in mind, I mean, you see it because you're part of all the Facebook groups. Nice cup. You're in all the Facebook.
The water tastes better in that cup. I know. It's like a grail.
I agree completely. So you're in the Facebook groups. You see that. For every one post that somebody says, I'm able to command these high prices and I'm doing so well, somebody's going to come in there and say, well, that works in your market. It doesn't work in my market. You don't understand my market. My market's cheap. And sometimes that's Tampa. Sometimes it's Miami. Sometimes it's, LA and other parts of the country. But you're in the middle of it. And I feel like you're in one of the most competitive in the country, possibly the most competitive. And I feel like you've risen above that. So I'd love to hear, and I think everybody could benefit from hearing how your process getting into it and how you were able to achieve that.
Well, I'd say the first 6 months, that was a period of time when here I am, I've got this sales process that's new to me and new to all the clients because they're used to this whole, even if there's good, better, and best, they're used to that starting at $100 or $140. And for me, this is where it took a lot of true belief that it was going to catch on, or I was going to get the right clients that were going to pay it. Because in the beginning, I didn't have anybody say yes to $180 or $200. So for me to start at that price point, I knew I was above the market, and I guess I just every day I just tried to think of better ways to sell it, and I think that probably the most important thing that I could say about learning how to sell it in the face of somebody that's expecting it to be a lower price is that you have to keep the whole entire conversation positive. I know that there were a lot of times when I was just trying to compare myself and compare what I was doing and compare to the competitor and compare to this, and well, apples for apples, what I'm doing is this, and it's a little confusing for the customer too, and then also too, you're bringing up maybe some negatives that they weren't thinking about. And I feel that it is true that not everybody needs to hear the same thing. So it's hard to read that. And I guess I learned a lot of lessons in trying to read that, but I never had a sale. I had people that were like ready to go, $100, and I had nothing. I didn't have anything on the schedule. I was just sitting there by myself in the shop, and a lot of people have that mindset. Oh well, $100 is better than nothing. I mean, what else are you doing? Just say yes and take the job. And I think the issue is that once you go down that path, or once you start on that path of $100 or $140, then you develop a client base of that. They're going to repeat. They're going to send friends. A lot of those clientele use those cars too, because they don't maybe have the, if they don't have the budget for the higher end tint jobs, maybe they don't have the budget for a garage kept situation. Like those cars suffer. I guess this is kind of an off topic point, but I think just in a lot of ways, I think you expose yourself to more warranties too, because if you do a lot of the really cheap tint jobs, a lot of those cars sit outside in the sun 8 hours, 9 hours a day, every single day. And then when you get into kind of some higher end clientele, a lot of those cars may stay in a parking garage all day or stay in a garage. That's kind of a side point. I digressed there for a minute. I guess kind of back.
It's a good point. It's a good point, because as you go down that road, there's other intangibles that you might not think about that you're bringing up that are very valid, that come along, and then eventually, like you said, shape your clientele, shape your business practices, and just shape your whole state of mind for what you're doing.
I think one of the, I guess, to kind of center back on the charging more is having more value. You're really passionate about what you do. You really care about the quality and the outcome of the window tint job. You want to earn their business, you want to earn their trust, but we want to provide something that people are going to love. And I think that resonates with a lot of people too. Like, listen, on the other end of the phone here, I'm going to do everything it takes to make sure that tint job comes out perfect for you. I'm not going to let it leave with a flaw. If there is an issue, I'm going to follow up with you in a couple of days. I'm going to make sure everything's okay. If you have any questions, I'm going to answer them. If there's an issue, I want you to come back. I want you to let me know if something's wrong. To have that policy of customer service and maybe mention it in a part of your sales process is helpful. To getting people to pay a little bit more, because they appreciate, this he's got maybe a better business, and if I pay him, if I pay a little bit more than the guy in the car wash at $100, he's probably got a more sustainable and more interesting model, and I bet maybe the tint job is going to be better, or maybe he is using a better product. And
right.
And
you don't need to convince everyone. You just need to convince enough people to that keep you busy. But it's not like everyone has to want to pay more. It's just everyone that comes to you.
That's the point too, is that I get every day, I get 2 or 3 people that they're calling around, they're asking for price, that it's only price. It's just unfortunate that they called and I didn't have the $100. I didn't have that option. I mean, there's some people that just they're not my customer because they're only looking at the price, and those customers will always find somebody for less. They'll not care if it's not 100% perfect. The car may not be perfect either, and they may just want, I just want a quick, cheap tint. I can't afford it, or I'm not gonna try to do anything extra special. And you don't have to try to convince all of those people to come in and pay more, because then I think there's a little bit of buyer's remorse, or they feel like you're ripping them off. I'm not sure. There's like a disconnect sometimes, and not to feel bad if people say no, even as many times as I've heard no. I just try to work on that more and more every day. Trying to think of another point, because I keep digressing when I get into the price topic, but as far as building my business in the very beginning, the one thing that I did was go to all the business networking groups and meetings and things that I could possibly go to. I went to one every day. I met as many people in the community as possible, as many business people. And I think, some of that is good and bad. I mean, some of those people are in those groups just to simply promote themselves, and they're not going to give you any kind of referrals. And I think to some extent that's okay, because in the pursuit of trying to get your business, they may give you business too. Sure. So usually the people in the networking groups seem to do business with each other. And they do that also to kind of qualify you and see what your experience is like, and see if it's a fit for their clients to refer. And I think that's something that nobody is doing. When I went to these networking groups, I was the only person talking about window tint. I was by myself. I was completely unique. I was the only one telling that story. So that gave me two things. That gave me my kind of initial free customer base that would listen to me every week. And then two, that gave me a chance to practice presenting what I sell in front of a group of people and finding more effective ways to explain it and sell it, and getting their questions and feedback. And that also helped me understand, well, I'm not talking about that. I need to talk about that, or so forth. So networking groups really gave me an advantage in the beginning, and the cost was pretty minimal. It's mostly time that required.
Okay.
And stop me anytime.
No, so just to kind of recap, I guess the most important points are the networking groups, and that's kind of a marketing, a way to get your name out there, a way to actually draw in the business. And then once the business is coming in, correct me if but my interpretation was the next step is to work on your sales process and keep fine tuning your sales process, keep it positive, and find ways to really explain the product to the customer, and focus on adding customer value through the customer service. Yeah.
Definitely, because those are things outside of the product. Because at the end of the day, I have come to learn that whatever everybody is selling is the best thing that they could be selling, according to them. This is it. This is the best stuff. We've been using it for 15 years. It's got a triple lifetime warranty. Don't worry about it. Everybody is going to say the same things about the product, or similar things about the product. You may be able to mention a couple of technology things. Or other factors about window film, which is more of a generalized statement. You can really lean on branding to some extent, but people, and this, and a lot of people know this, that just people are buying from you. They trust you. They trust that you're going to use a good product and that you're going to stand behind it, and that's far greater value to the client, I think, than the actual the brand of the film itself.
So how do you go about picking which films you offer to your customer? Do you offer multiple films, single film options?
Manufacturers don't like it, but I've dipped my toes in everything that I can, and I think that was a big transition for me from Pennsylvania to Florida. Is that in Pennsylvania, like you had mentioned too, there wasn't a lot of competition. There wasn't a lot of reason why I needed a film to perform a lot more than another, or there wasn't a lot that I was being compared to in a residential situation. I pretty much had one or two samples of Solar Guard. People just they bought from me because they bought from me, and those films worked really well in that climate. And I think I've got myself involved in a lot of different film brands here, and I got I guess in a position of wanting to understand as much as possible about window film, and I tried to figure out ways to test different window film, and I think customers appreciate that little bit of technical knowledge that I can pass along to them about window film. Like, I've done the research, I've installed several different brands of film. I feel that there are a few manufacturers that are really good at one type of film. A few manufacturers that are really good at another type of film. There's a couple of like really exceptional types of film that are made by certain manufacturers. I feel like if you have one brand and you say that that's the best of everything, not only are you telling yourself a lie, and manufacturers hate that, that they like to say that they're dual reflective, they're ceramic, they're precious metal, or they're IR, like all of their films are all of the best of what they could be. But
sure.
Really, I know certain brands have like a really good precious metal film. Certain brands have a really good ceramic film. Certain brands have really nice, not hazy dual reflective films that have really nice colors versus blues versus, really hazy ones. And obviously, sure. Go ahead.
Oh, so with that knowledge that you have now of the different films and the specialties of the different brands, if you were to be going back to Pennsylvania, you're back in the exact same scenario where people are buying from you because of you. Do you think, basically what I'm getting at, do you think people in areas like that have the customer base like that, do you think it's still in their best interest to understand the different brands and have that bigger variety, or do you think it's better to keep it simple and just a few films?
Well, there's merit to simplicity in certain markets, and I guess that's the difference between the market I was in Pennsylvania versus Florida, is that that specifically that area, you've seen The Office, the Scranton, that was the closest metropolitan area, and when I left, you could, depending on the part of town, you could find a house for $35,000. I mean, it was Section 8. Major parts of the city, and still to this day, this is just how it is. The unemployment is double the national average in that area always.
Wow.
So the wealthy were really more of just upper middle class. So you've got different situations, but also you have, and I'll kind of go back to your question too about the technologies. You've got just one type of glass, one or two types of glass in that market too. You have a dual pane low E window or dual pane clear, and you just have commercial single pane glass. I mean, you really don't have the wide variety of glass types like you do here in Florida. You've got different types of impact windows with low E coatings in different places, some on the outside, some in the impact part, some on a clear pane that floats on the outside of the window. You've got a lot of different, solar absorption scenarios that you need to consider, and certain films are really good for that, and certain films are really bad for that, and you need to have those. This is the best film for this type of impact window. We get amazing results from it. The glass is a nice ambient temperature. It's not overheating, and then your dual pane window over here, this exact type of film is amazing for that. So it's nice to have a bunch of arrows in the quiver.
So where have you found the best resources to pick up all your glass knowledge? And, was it just from being curious, Googling? Was it Facebook? Was it Tint Dude?
Putting film on glass.
Testing it, trial and error?
Yeah, well, there's some of that, but then also, tech support, calling in the manufacturer and saying, hey, I've got clear impact glass. I'm the third person bidding on it, and nobody else is putting a dark dual reflective film on it. Can I do it? Why can't I do it? Or what do I need to look out for if I do it? And, getting answers from tech support really helped evolve my understanding of what to look for, so I can kind of do my own film to glass analysis, and then just real world, thinking, okay, if I put this film on here, this should be the best film. I should put this precious metal film on this dual pane window. And sometimes certain brands of windows, I've been installing all these films in direct sunlight and feeling the difference. Obviously all window film is going to make an improvement of some type on the situation, but we felt dramatic differences in it just standing in the sunlight between one film versus another. That's another way. And then we've had situations where contractors are, they're spending $30,000 or $40,000 trying to re-engineer the air conditioning to cool a room, and we come to find that there's a real high absorption film in there. And then you have to tell them, hey, well, we've got the right kind of window film, the proper tint is going to make a huge difference. And then the contractor rips off a panel and says, you know what, we've already made a huge difference just getting rid of it. Why would we ever want window tint? So, I said, well, can you give me the time to install samples and do tests and do thermal imaging and take an infrared thermometer and check the glass temperature and show you that that wrong tint has generated so much radiant heat on this glass that's caused more of a problem than it's corrected. But over here, where our low absorption film is, you feel cooler. The glass is the same temperature. And doing those, I guess, presentations has taught me a lot. And I've taken as much data as possible when I'm in those situations and pictures. And, that's really helped our sales process and helped me understand more.
Okay, got it. And, I guess something we didn't necessarily make super clear is your company does automotive and flat glass, yeah?
Yes, and marine.
And marine, and you do graphics as well.
Well, we were at a trade show in the very beginning when I had time to do trade shows. They're very, very hard to get a positive impact out of, and what I've learned is that meeting other businesses at the trade show is more valuable usually than the clients that you meet. And I met with a shower door company, and this company's called My Shower Door. They manufacture the glass, and they have locations all over the state. And because they manufacture the glass, this is a long answer to your question, by the way. Because they manufacture the glass, it's easier for them to just sell clear glass. So we got into customizing shower enclosure glass, and we use a variety of decorative films. We partner with people who do UV printing to make custom gradients, which interior designers love, that we can make a certain part of the shower enclosure opaque, and then we can determine where to transfer it to clear, and then just fill the rest of the glass with clear film and have it look like it was built in there. And I think because of that kind of engaged us into buying a plotter and doing our own digital cutting of films. Mm-hmm. And that's the type.
What's super interesting, I just want to point out there is, what you said was basically you networked with a shower door company, and then you were able to provide custom solutions for them by partnering with companies that print the films and create the films, and you were basically the middleman and the installer. And what a great way to add graphics to your lineup without making that initial investment of a plotter or a printer, or just saying, when am I going to get customers? Like, you went out, got customers, and sure, got a supplier and made it happen. Everybody, I feel like, is capable of doing that. That doesn't cost anything, just legwork.
Well, and that's actually, and then because of that, the turnaround is slow sometimes, and you can't just have one particular provider of it. I was able to find that there are a couple of really good providers of digital printed films in the market, and I'm sure more are coming because it's such a growing industry. But yeah, if other people are in the flat glass arena, frameless shower enclosures are the latest way to renovate a bathroom, and builders do it new. It's just dated to have framed shower enclosures. So again, custom glass is typically not tempered, or it's really expensive if it's tempered custom glass. And also, if it's custom glass, it needs to be ordered a certain way, so the turnaround is long. So all of the custom shower enclosure companies need window tinters. They need, and when you apply film to the exterior of the shower, it's not impacted by the shower at all. Most of the hardware is really easy to take off. It's like, Allen key set screws, and there's just, some clear plastic rings in there. It's easy to take apart the hardware, and, you just trim back a little silicone sometimes if they're a sloppy silicone bead on it. And we've been doing it for years. no like failure comebacks, curling edges, or issues. We just get contractors that, they walk into the enclosure with a window or something and damage it. But it's a true sustainable solution is what I'm saying. Everybody should do it.
So we have a couple questions in the chat. Ralph asked, what percentage of flat glass versus auto do you do?
And this was the interesting thing. Pennsylvania was like 99% automotive. And then I came here, and we are primarily flat glass. We do automotive sporadically through the week, 10 cars, 15 cars. Sometimes it's as little as 5. Sometimes we have full just days of flat glass installations. So we are now primarily flat glass after myself a decade of the whole automotive world, detailing, tinting, 12 volt, and it's automotive is. I guess that's a valid point too. To the pricing is that by having the diversity of these different sources of window tinting, that does help enable us to stay firm on our pricing. But it's
okay.
It's up to us.
And Matt, Matt asked if you could name some of the graphic printing companies. It's super interesting. He said, I don't know if that's something you want to share, or if share a path how he could find them, or.
Sure, happy to. So, not too many people like to do the gradient. There's definitely there can be banding. A lot of people have a hard time getting that to print nice and smooth, and I've come to find that by I guess managing our expectations and managing the sizes that we're working with in the fading area. I almost feel like, if it's a really dense transition, sometimes you can get a jab of banding in that. If you spread it out maybe in a 20-inch area, seems to come out pretty smooth. But there's one company that can, and I don't know how much of it he's going to want to do, but Lux Graphic Imaging, Mike Pisano, he's done amazing work for us.
He's out of New York, New Jersey, somewhere there?
Yep, he's out of New York, and his turnaround is reasonable, and we just state that with our clients. Hey, just give us a couple of weeks, give us accurate drawings, and I can't stress that enough. If you do not have accurate drawings and you build your gradient based on those drawings, and you come in and they've got like a 6-inch change in the corner, and your fade is off somewhere, and you're trying to line everything up, it's a big problem. And I also recommend combining panels as much as possible, because when you're making individual panels and lining up individual panels, it's hard. It's really hard. You want to be able to lay all the film out on a set of 2 or 3 pieces of glass, and then splice it and install and install and install, and then you can stay in order. But other graphic printing, decorative films I've not used, because I think they're more of a large scale project. If they do like big square footage, I think they'll make something custom for you. But for like a shower enclosure or a one-off door, I don't think they'll do it. But Richard from Solar Graphics has 2 UV printers, and they do a lot of graphic design, and they just do it nationally anyway. So they're great, a great source as well.
So just to share a little like my experience on it, if are anybody looking to get into printing your own gradients or doing your own graphics, so at my old flat glass company, we had a Roland inkjet printer, and then we had a HP latex printer. And the HP latex printer wasn't loaded with white. So those became a little more popular in the last year or so, right after we had bought it a couple years ago. So anyway, we used the Roland inkjet printer, and that was something where it was about, I think if I remember, about a $16,000 investment. Okay, it does have to be loaded with white when it's brand new. So you're, like, my opinion with a printer is don't ever buy a used printer. I just think it would be the worst idea. You want to get the newest technology, and you don't want anybody else's poor maintenance, because maintenance is the whole part of owning a printer and getting quality results. So even stuff like banding can come just from improper maintenance. So what I'm trying to sum it up, I guess, is we did a lot of white printing and custom gradients and so on. And we did get samples from outside companies that would do UV printing, which is typically the most recommended, as well as latex, which is more kind of like a newer thing people are doing in-house. And we were able to get the least amount of banding, I mean, basically no banding with the inkjet. It did take a lot of adjustments and settings, but it's definitely possible. Now, the thing is, it's super slow. So it's super, super slow. What I mean is one panel for like a conference room could easily take maybe 40 minutes to print one panel. The next thing is you have to have a dryer. If you don't have a dryer, that white ink doesn't dry in time. So you're going to have a problem somewhere along that printing process. And you're going to absolutely need a laminator, because with an inkjet printer, you absolutely have to laminate everything. So the laminator is another maybe $3,000, $4,000, $6,000 investment. You can go used with a laminator for sure. And then a dryer, for a good dryer, is about another $1,500. So about $20,000 investment and a lot of trial and error. You can definitely print white. And if you're considering it, because white's not the only option, you can obviously use it for so many other prints. Color prints are more popular, obviously. White's popular as well. But what I'm saying is, if you go to a supplier of these products, they typically will finance them for you. And when you finance them over a year, 2, 3 years, they become very affordable, because, you know, for a few $100s a month, you have now a whole separate part of your business. So I highly, highly recommend Graphics for anybody interested.
Well, the margin is fantastic, and you're the only one usually in that scenario. There's not a lot of people comfortable with that. The costs are very high. The risk is very high that if they do a project like that and then they have a mistake and they have to make another run, or they have to order more. So, you know, usually you get to be in a pretty nice position with those projects. They're definitely awesome. It's awesome to do.
Just working with the customer, like if you're a company like your own that provide such good customer service, you know, you can afford it. You can charge those high prices because the customer's options, you know, to find another company that's going to talk to them and walk them through the process and go through the design and like follow it. It's not, they're so rare. They're so rare right now. So it's such an opportunity.
Oh, for sure.
So that's the only questions for now. If anybody has any other questions, please drop them in the comments. But a question I have for you is, what's your vision moving forward? You said you're mainly flat glass now. You still do auto, you do graphics, and that's growing. What do you think for the next 5-10 years? Where do you see? What are you trying to do?
I do like that idea of creating the film. You know, I don't know if you have purchased anything from Vetrolite.
No, never.
No, never.
No,
Vetrolite. Not familiar?
Vetrolite, no.
Okay, so Vetrolite is on the East Coast, and it's been a bit since I've ordered from them. They are the only company right now that I'm aware of that makes color and texture custom on the film. So the type of glass graphics that they can make have, you know, a variety of textures etched in the film, and really smooth color addition to it. So whatever machine they have, I've asked around kind of quite a bit, and nobody seems to know. I'm not sure if they'll reveal that information to me, if it's proprietary enough to them, but the materials that they make are the most beautiful custom films we've ever installed, and it's expensive. I'm not saying, hey, I'm gunning for you, but I'd love to have those abilities in-house. That's kind of my 5-year vision.
Got it.
What's that?
Oh, I said got it. Yeah, that's definitely a huge market. Like you're saying, it's a growing one. And the textured films, I think Decorative Films offers some textured films, but I don't know if they make them or what that process is. But what came to mind was, I feel like there's a big opportunity, if you can make textured films especially, to recreate stained glass windows for churches. I feel like there's a lot of churches looking for stained glass and wanting to do a film option. And, you know, your options are the hurdle is the design, I think. But beyond the design, then you can only print like a flat. But if you have the texture, like you're saying, I could see that being a perfect solution.
Yeah, I think that company is Samuel K or something like that. They do stained glass films
Okay.
for front entrances, and they have a variety of designs to choose from, and they customize them to the size of the door. Again, they're kind of in a league of their own. They're the only company that I'm aware of that make those custom stained glass films, and they do look like the real deal. They're really worth the money. I mean, it's an expensive installation for the customer, but it's nowhere near the cost of replacing the door and buying custom glass. So that's an awesome thing. I think I want to, since there's a little bit of time, to just kind of expand on something.
We're not on any time limit.
All right. One main thing that we implemented in our business that I pretty much heavily transitioned over from the networking groups was into community, connecting in the community and doing charitable activities. So that, I think, probably grew our business a lot, but that was never the intention. I got just incredible satisfaction out of it, and just kind of filled some part of my life to do charitable things. So my point is that the BNI group, the networking groups, very few of them do anything but just meet and just exchange cards. You don't really see, and there may be groups that do this, but I've never been to a Habitat for Humanity build day and I've seen a BNI group there. I've seen other businesses grouping together. And what I did was, and this was at the tail end of my major networking run, and this ended up taking up that little bit of free time that I had outside of the business and family, was to join the Rotary Club. And there's different things like that in the community, Kiwanis and the Lions Club and so forth. But joining the Rotary Club put me in our specific, if you can imagine Naples, and as successful as an area that Naples is, our particular club is 70 members, and they're all wildly successful business people that are active or retired. They have national and international businesses, and I got involved with this group of guys. It's one of the few, it's not supposed to be a single gender club. There's Rotaries generally, guys and men and women, and our group specifically though just does so much in the community, fundraising, and like I said, Habitat for Humanity. I donate blood. I chaired a fundraising event. So that also inspired me to do something called Tint It Forward, where we've donated, to date, not a lot, but about $10,000 worth of tint installations to nonprofit organizations that needed the window film, but would have to take from donations to pay for the window film. And it was something that we very mildly leveraged. I mean, we mentioned it on social media. We didn't really try to make a big deal out of it, but I see that you, just a train of thought, but Window Tints did the Santa's with the gifts. Trying to think.
Toys for Tots.
Toys for Tots. To do things like that. I don't see a lot of other businesses. I know at least in this market, I know that maybe one or two are doing things in the community for the community. But I think that that's a great thing that it usually just costs time, but people see that, you get a, fulfillment, as well. I mean, a lot of people look at their businesses, how much money is this going to make me? But, those are kind of some things where you give back. And, that was kind of a really nice and big thing about our business. And when Hurricane Irma hit, I was using the van, because that was my only vehicle at the time, to drive around and deliver food donations. And I don't know. I didn't intend for it to happen, but I got caught kind of on the news moving food donations around, and it was just like nice PR.
Sure.
kind of for the business. So, but like eventually doing really good things in the community will kind of come back to, the community recognizing your business as a nice person to give business to.
Sure. That's commendable. And like, I think that's a great culture to have within the company. Like, you're part of your company. Why not involve yourself in things like that, make the people you're around and everybody better together. And that's really, really nice. And not to call out people on Facebook, but there's definitely posts where there's like screenshots, or they'll be like, oh, can you believe a nonprofit, asked me to do something for free, blah, blah, blah. And like, I can see that. I can definitely understand where they're coming from, but like, I think it makes way more sense where you're coming from. And I think that should be a great reminder to everybody. Like, it doesn't matter how much you give. It doesn't matter if it's a large amount. It's really more just your intention and getting that ball rolling, and it just works out for itself.
Well, that's kind of how it started, was with a nonprofit had me bid on a job. And then I just, I thought about it, and like, this is, and I looked at the company and kind of understood their situation. I'm like, they really need the window tint. And I called them back and I said, I just wanted to touch base with you. And they said, yeah, no, I'm sorry. We had to go with another company because we really have to go with the lowest number. I said, well, what if we just donated the installation? And I actually got a better deal on the material too, because I actually went and I researched. Well, I contacted the supplier and I said, I have this project. I don't know if you could just give me, the bare cost on the material too, so you can work that angle of it too. That, maybe you can donate the installation, but just use, since you're donating it, just you've got an extra roll of this that you're sitting on, use that.
Right.
Or contact your supplier and say, hey, I've got this project. What can I get that's going to be, less than $1 a square foot that we can just do to do this, so that they can have some energy efficiency. They're not really going to buy our best film anyway. It rolls out to be a really feel good story for everybody. And you do it on your time because you're donating it.
Right. That makes perfect sense. So we're days away from 2020. To put you on the spot, do you have a 2020 like work related, like goal for the year, or thing you're going to be implementing, or like, what are you thinking? How do you get your year started?
It's a secret. No,
Let's make something up then.
No, I've been really fortunate that we did come down here, and thank you to my wife. She just supported me and believed in me the whole time, even when things were not going really well, that this was going to work out and be what it is. But thankfully we have grown every year. So that really is obviously an ongoing goal, is that we've got to beat the last year. And we can look at that on a monthly basis. But I finally have somebody that's full time, that's just at the shop. And this was inspiration from you. And this is the value of these things, is that you're going to say things that make sense to people, and somebody else is going to ask a question that's going to make sense to somebody else. But you said, sometimes you might not have the position, or you might not have the guy, but maybe you can just get somebody there, and then they can help you shave 15 minutes here and 15 minutes there. And I have that guy. I finally got somebody to do that, keep the showroom open, and fill in those blanks. And he's doing what you had mentioned too, writing a manual of like, how do I do the calendar for the business, or how do I do this part for the business? How do I, manage these little processes? So I want to say thank you for that. So for 2020, that gives us, finally the ability to pull some levers, and I think market a lot stronger to get people here, get people to the showroom, because it is open all the time now.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so great. And, that's just exciting. I know that's going to be a huge step, and I'm so happy that I could help, and I'm so glad you shared that story, because, that's awesome. Cool.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you so much for being so generous today with the information on all aspects of your business. And And yeah, I just feel like this was super valuable. I feel like you're, you know, you're very much like, you know, people are going to experience what you experience. They're going to move to different areas. They're going to experience changes in their market. Maybe that's going to cause a move. They're going to experience that competition. And, you know, when you know what you did exists, it's easier to follow that model. But for those who think, you know, your market's different, there's a guy down the street offering it for $99. It's impossible for me to, you know, sell on quality. It's not impossible. You're living proof of that. So I think that should be extremely beneficial to a lot of people. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Cool. So
Yeah.
that's I think that's a good stopping point. Joe commented, by the way, Joe Roche, very proud to be a part of Naples Tint Company. I appreciate the mention there. Haha.
Yeah, no, he's the guy. He you know, and that's kind of the cool thing about Joe is that, you know, out of all the applicants we had, he had like the least, you know, applicable, like direct experience on paper, but the best positive, you know, enthusiastic state of mind to want to learn and do, you know, everything. And he's I mean, we're training him how to tint, we're training him how to do everything. So he's having a really, really good time.
Before I let you go, if you don't mind, can you just talk a little bit about how you, the process of finding and hiring? Because I know a lot of people are wondering, okay, I want a Joe. Where do I find a Joe?
So, I don't know. I actually got a really, really huge, overwhelming response on Indeed, but I think I hit the right dollar amount. You know, you have to really try to find where most of the market is for a work standpoint, and at least have a strong enough offer that everybody's really want to at least interested in checking that out. But you know, Joe is. He's not an installer, so I think that's really the biggest challenge that people have hiring an installer. You know, I know. I guess just to answer your question, we did Indeed. We formulated different things. We were putting in different information in there. We were sponsoring it. I was putting things on LinkedIn. I was trying to share it on Facebook. I didn't really get as many responses as I did from Indeed, but it gave me a lot of stuff to filter. And when I found out that I was rejecting most of the candidates, I found out maybe I was, you know, mentioning the wrong things in the ad. So, you know, I try to figure out, you know, what do I really want? You know, what are the most important things to me? And, you know, really at the end of the day, it just turned out to be like loyalty and trustworthiness were really the most important things when I, you know, went through the list of real traits that mattered. But I guess I do want to mention that by talking to competition and trying to talk to the other tint shops as much as you can, just reach out and just send a message on social media and say, hey, listen, you know, I know we're in the same market. Just want to let you know, if you need anything, just let me know. I mean, I sell blackout film to Tint World the other day. I mean, I'll talk to everybody. I think we're all in this for the right reasons. But by doing that, I met the people that do the installations in our company, and they're incredible people that also have their own businesses. And one of them ended up having such a better situation, kind of jumping on board, that he really doesn't run his other business anymore, and he's kind of a full-time guy. So it ended up working out really well. You know, kind of subcontracting some competitors if they have some downtime. If you guys can get along, that was really important. You know, from hiring installers from that standpoint.
How many applicants would you say you went through in total?
Over 100.
Okay.
It was, you know, and there were really, really good people in there. I mean, you know, when I was approaching this position, I thought, you know, maybe the most important thing for me is somebody that has those office skills, and they'll bring knowledge to the table that I don't have. Like they bring incredible bookkeeping skills and you know, have you know, a lot of warehouse experience, or, you know, things that can bring value to the business that's not there. I even initially had a guy that was you know, amazing at making videos. He went to school for cinematography. He understood Facebook marketing really well, but it just unfortunately, you know, he was not reliable. So I guess you're gonna make some mistakes in the process too. But I think probably the most important thing was to, this I don't know if this is a way to do it, but everybody puts all their information on social media. Try to get a feel for the personality of the person a little bit too, because that's kind of the face of your business at that point. And then do a face-to-face interview. Just see if the chemistry is there. Just see if you guys can just hold a really nice, fluid conversation for a while. And I don't know. I feel like I'm a good judge of character too. If I can tell, handshake and presentation and things like that too. Just how solid somebody is.
Sure. So
face-to-face interviews, which take a lot of time, but.
So that's a lot of investment, obviously. So if you're expecting to hire and you think it's going to be easy, it's probably not. That's testing ads, putting them in multiple places, sponsoring them, going through over 100 applicants, face-to-face interviews, and then you get yourself somebody, hopefully that works out. And if you don't, then that should be a lesson as to what to spot in the next person to make sure you find the right person. I feel like it's like dating. You have to hire some people to be able to find the right one. You can't just think it's going to work out or force it to work out or be afraid to fire them. And that doesn't mean it's not worth looking for somebody else, because there's plenty of good people out there.
Well, this is Gary Vee saying this. Your hiring process sucks. If you get the wrong people, it's your process. Right. It's the way you're looking at it. It's the way you're looking at people that's all wrong. And the old adage, hire slowly, fire quickly. Don't feel like you're in a desperate position to have to hire somebody. You'll get through that patch. That'll pass. Far quicker than hiring the wrong person will. And it happened when I bought the detailing business in Pennsylvania. The very first person I hired quit a job he had for many years, and it was a terrible fit. I had no idea until he got going in the business that he was just completely miserable to the customers in the first week, and I had to let him go, and he was broken by that because I put him in a horrible position. But the next guy who came in doubled the business and ended up buying it from me when I left Pennsylvania. So it really, it was a hard lesson. Like, wow, did I not think this through correctly? But you can get a surprise like that, and you have to move on. You have to move on quickly, because otherwise it all goes down, and then everybody loses. So,
I think that's really good advice. So, I guess that's a good ending point. And again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your generosity with your knowledge and your experience. And if anybody wants some more of Matt, you have a YouTube channel, Naples Tint Company. Yeah. And you've been doing a lot of videos recently, so that's definitely like a place you're active. And then Facebook? Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm doing a lot more, again, because of, I'm thanking you a lot here, but this goes back to you. You said this, even if you're not good at videos, just make videos, and you'll get better. But just don't hold yourself back from making videos just because you're not good at first.
This is our, I think, 22nd Tint Wizdom, and the first one I did in a Starbucks parking lot, like with the wind blowing, and my heart was racing.
Just to do it.
Just to do it. And what worked for me finally was publicly committing to doing it. So once I said, hey, we're going to do this every Tuesday, my option 6 days from then, because I announced it on like a Tuesday, so I gave me the longest amount of time I could to prepare. And
sure.
My option is either look like I quit and I didn't follow through, or just do it. And I would say the first 20 I was just super nervous, and then these last couple I'm less nervous. But it doesn't matter if your fifth one's uncomfortable. Get to your 50th one and you'll be a pro.
Just keep doing it. And I guess I just want to put one more little plug in there that I recently discovered, and this is just for social media, and you're making a short video, a 30 or 45-second video where you're explaining something about what you do. There's a closed caption app, and I forget the name of it. I can look it up later, but it puts captions on your video. And in social media, especially Instagram, your video is going, but not everybody has the sound on. So it just initiates people into trying to pay attention to what you're explaining, and they may turn the sound on and listen to you as well. But yeah, it's a closed captions app, and it lets you modify the words because it'll transcribe them incorrectly usually. But that's just a piece of advice that I recently just saw.
So
started using.
A great point, because like you just said, most people are not like listening to a video. They're scrolling through videos and they're in public, so they can't listen necessarily like out loud. Just to point out, Facebook, any videos you upload straight to Facebook, when you're uploading it, you can add closed captions and it'll automatically transcribe it. And then you can edit the funny words, like it calls this show Tint Wizdom, which is fine. And then I'm going to put a link. I was just looking for it, but I couldn't find it quickly, to a service. I don't know if it's the one that you saw, but it's the one that we used for our most recent video. And it was the easiest way to add captions I've ever come across. It was so fast, so easy. And it was like $49 for the entire year. So I'll drop a link in here right after. And it was super, like, it was one of those where you see the ad on your Facebook feed and I'm like, this is a scam. And after like a month, I was like, this is a scam I want to fall for. Let's try it. And it was awesome. It worked flawlessly. So I'll search for that right after this. But great advice. Closed captions.
I use is Mix Captions is the name of the one that I've used. And you have to there's the little CC Mix Captions. I don't know if that's one that you use.
And you do that all from your phone?
Yes, and that's, you know, I just started posting with the captions, and it's just great because you can put it in your story, your Insta story, and have some words kind of rolling through your Insta story. And then Gary Vee says to use TikTok, so we're on friggin' TikTok right now, which is mostly like people dancing in front of the video, but you do get you get a bunch of impressions quick because it's a scaling platform right now.
Right. Never know where that's going to go. So that's the little investment into the future.
Just put it in there.
Cool. Well, thank you again. And we hope we can have you back on soon and get an update on 2020.
Well, thank you, Eric. And thank you for everything that you do for the industry. It's huge. It's huge.
Completely my pleasure. Thank you to everyone who watched us live or watched us after. We appreciate the support. If you want to listen to this, you can listen to it on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, as well as iTunes now. So this one will be in there in just a couple hours. So the audio experience works as well. You can listen before you go to sleep. You can listen on your drive to work, just anywhere and everywhere. So check us out. And thank you again, Matt. Thank you to everybody who watched.
Thank you. Have a good night.